the Bunkerville, this is item number 6, Bunkerville well retrofit.
You're going to have to explain how this works, because I read through it a number of times and I'm so confused. I don't understand where we got the numbers from or what's what, so.
Okay.
I can start, and fortunately Mike's here. Are you speaking to the entire?
I can address this.
I'm talking to each one of the next 3 items of, if you look in our package that we got, well, let's take,
in regards to the engineers' costs associated with each of these
task
projects.
order maximum limit not to exceed 37,000. Was that for the bid documents and everything, or was?
Do you want me to take that?
Go ahead.
Amendment, addendum.
No, that's fine. Wes and I went through this a little bit, and I think just a little bit of a timeline, especially on the first one, will be helpful. The original project out at well number 2, as we look at agenda item number 6, was to design the pump station around a booster concept. We were going to abandon the tank and booster station. The name is escaping. The Bunkerville tank, the water tower tank, and booster station. We came back after that original design and wanted to do a submersible pump where we could do a 1 pump. The costs were coming in advantageous, and so at that time, the original cost for the design services of that project for the pipeline as well as the booster pump at the existing well was $21,000. We came back, as Aaron mentioned, and we added, including in the bid documents, wells 1, 9, 26, 33, as well as changing the design of well number 2 from just inserting a booster to an actual submersible pump, single pump capable of doing all the work. That was an additional, I believe, 16, and that's where we get to the 37. That's been approved. That's work that we're pretty much done with. And so the number you're seeing there, 71, is actually the combined cost, but that includes work performed, which is over half. What we're asking for tonight, I believe, is it 34,500?
An additional $34,018
18
is all we're asking for.
And the 3418 essentially covers some of the bid work today. Working with Lane, Weber, we had several others on an on-site visit. We went to all the wells, so the bidding services, putting out addenda, those types of things that we've done over the last couple of days, reviewing the bids and making these recommendations. But the key on these ones going forward is essentially working with Aaron as they do the video on each of the wells, making recommendations about development, the water quality testing. Part of those services is essentially a summary report at the end of that work by Lane Christensen to give recommendations similar to what we'd recommended in the master plan, as far as once we have that data, now we can say, okay, what do we need to do to develop well number 1? What do we need to do to develop well number 9? And what additional requirements may be needed at 26, where we're increasing the size of that pump. That impacts arsenic plant 27 and some other things. And so there's some summary work in there, working on progress payments, weekly progress meetings. Most of the on all 3 of the next bid item, or the next agenda items, actually, we intend to be here once a week for the morning, a progress meeting, and meeting with the contractor to go over the progress of each of the projects. And then after that, going out on site with Kevin and Brian, the district's inspectors, doing some training as well as quality control for the project in general. The bulk of the construction management and inspection will be performed by Brian Plum and Kevin Amon. So the 34,000 you see there is I believe it includes a 12-week period of progress meetings, progress payments, responding to Lane Christensen's comments, as well as taking all the data they get, reviewing each of the videos for the wells, and the water quality data on the 2 additional wells we're looking at equipping. Coming back really with some recommendations for you guys on the next fiscal year as to what can be done on well 1 and well 9 as far as developing resources. And I'll address number 7 and 8 when we get there, if there's any questions.
And if I might, while you're still there, to help you understand the budget ramifications of the discussion, you'll notice that on the first line, after you awarding the bid of $344,222 to Lane Christensen, that left us $96,098 under budget effectively. We had that much to work with. After awarding, if in fact you choose to do this and have Bowen and Collins fulfill their responsibilities as Mike has described, that $34,000 would still leave us $62,000 under budget on the aggregate of all of those projects. So by even having them do all of this, we're still under budget by $62,000. So that's the kind of the distilled down to where we're at as far as that project is concerned.
That cost also includes as-built and everything as well, correct?
If I may,
Yes.
I reviewed the scope with Mike, and I found it to be very reasonable considering the level of effort we're getting. And the fact that with this work that they've completed, we'll have 3 more functional wells basically working at top capacity, and plus information on 2 others that we talked about in the master plan that could address potentially our agreed requirement to add a couple thousand gallons per minute to our peak capacity for the facility at a much lower cost than developing 2 brand new wells. So we're getting a lot of bang for this buck. It's really a good deal.
Hey, Mr. Chairman,
Yes, Rich.
hey, can I pipe in real quick?
Yeah, absolutely.
This kind of pertains to the next 3 items as well. You know, I think the well, I still am positive with them helping us with the well and the oversight. I think 11,300 on the next job for a $25,000 construction job. I think that's disproportionate as much as the engineer is going to cost to as much as the job's going to cost. And after it explained to me that the $5,000 for the tank was in addition to educate or kind of taking Kevin and showing him what's going on so that when we do it in the future, we won't have this cost. I guess I was okay with that. My other point too is that if we're going to spend this kind of money, and I know Bowen and Collins is a great company and they're trustworthy and they do a good job, but I know that it's professional service. I'd almost like to check it against some other professional service providers, other engineers, to make sure that we're in line. Does that
Okay.
make sense?
Yeah.
Yeah, it kind of makes sense. One thing with professional services, if you've got somebody like Mike's firm that has been working on this equipment for a long period of time and understands it and knows where all of our facilities are and so on, is a big advantage to us, and probably saves us money in the long run. So that's why I think that there's no state regulation on professional services in terms of having to go out to bid, because professional services obviously are a little bit different than just going out to lowest bid.
And if, maybe I'll wait until we can get Richard back to address, you know, as you look at the next line item, number 7, I'll be happy to address that higher percentage, the 11.3, when we have a project that's 25.
I think it's a great question you
It is.
asked.
And if you'd like, I'll wait until he's back.
Yeah, that would be great. No, it's okay, we, talking to myself.
Hi,
here.
Rich.
No, please record your message. When you finish recording, you
Must
may
be
hang
in
up the
America.
phone.
Yeah.
Is there one for
You
the phone?
moved
So-
that
yeah.
far.
Hi, Rich, this is Ken, we lost you again. We'll do the same routine again. If you call in here, then I'll call you back. Thank you.
What'd you say?
If I may respond,
Yes, go ahead.
okay.
The homing pigeon keeps dying.
My,
in Lincoln County.
I did review the documents, and their hourly rates and the amount of work they're proposing is certainly reasonable. I did spend 13 years working for consultants similar to Long Collins and Associates. And also, I think that the comment that was made that these are the kinds of services similar to legal services or a doctor, and that you find somebody you trust, you don't shop around if they're serving you well and reasonably, especially since they already know your legal problems or your body's problems or your system problems, so they can respond effectively. It's understandable to want to shop around. Maybe if this was repairing a tractor or doing conventional contracting work where we have a defined scope, I feel more comfortable about doing that. Certainly we do on master plans and other things that we've gone out that are completely new pieces of work. But in this case, it's something that their information and their knowledge has really added value to what we're getting. So my recommendation as the general manager is ride the horse that you're comfortable with and wins races for you. I know I'm mixing my analogies.
Well, and I'll repeat myself, I don't know if we'll get Richard back or not, but if he is in Panaca.
Until I hear him
He may
call.
enter the vortex. One of the challenges that we had on the Pulsifer Wash Culvert Repair Project, and that we will continue to have whenever we do work in there, is because it's an ephemeral wash to the Virgin River, there is a significant amount of time that went into getting permitting through the Army Corps of Engineers whenever we do something in there. Unfortunately, it was kind of a perfect storm that we put in an application just as the local office lost one of their personnel. They were down to one person, and we had to meet with them a couple times. There were some inefficiencies, and I'll confess to that right away. The original design fee was for $6,300. So what I sat down with Ken on, and we talked about both this Pulsifer Wash project as well as the freeway tank project, and said that we would allocate $5,000 to each one. That would essentially, typically as we bill you guys, it's on a time and materials basis. And it would be on the same scope of services as with the well project, where we anticipate a 2 to 3 week construction schedule. That's 3 trips down, working with Brian and with Kevin, and as it sounds like Richard has already been informed. What Ken has asked us to do is essentially get a couple of project binders together where Kevin and Brian will be comfortable managing these projects from here on out. That they have the correct forms and some additional training on managing the contractors, and really pretty minimal oversight as far as handling most of these smaller projects, because you do end up running into some of these inefficiencies, and it's not, it's difficult as a consultant to stay within these really small projects. I'll confess that right now. It's much easier if you can train in-house staff to do those types of things, which is what we would prefer to do. And so on both items 7 and 8, item 7 says 11.3, but it's effectively a $5,000 construction management and training. Same on item 8. There's some coordination with the industrial hygienist and some other things up at the freeway tank for disposal of lead primer and other things that Kevin and Brian wanted some support on, I think. And so that's what those 2 items are. The 11.3 is the combined $6,300 design fee, which is pretty much in line with where our engineer's estimate came in $50,000-$60,000. 10 to 12% for design and construction is pretty standard within the industry. We got a great bid. I won't apologize for that, but it does make my fee look disproportionate. And so, and I
was just gonna say, it's kind of hard to penalize you, when you do racial analysis, it's hard to penalize you for a low bid. And that's really kind of what Rich was saying in a little bit of a roundabout way, so.
I doubt that Rich is aware of the fact, though, that half of this money on the 11, almost half this money, 11.3 is
Training.
going into a training program that brings our people up to speed, so that in the future we don't even have to use it. I mean, you're training your own services away from it.
Well, it's,
On the small
on
one.
these small stuffs, it's inefficient for me to do it, and it's better if Kevin and Brian.
But we
you
do,
guys-
but we do a lot of small ones, so. it could be a
Okay,
big
sorry we
savings.
lost you again, glad you're back.
But you're still gonna be doing design,
Okay.
correct?
Sure.
On
We
these small
proceeded, I
projects.
knowing you come.
Kevin and those
Oh, if you
guys.
selected me, yes. I'd
Yeah,
be
right,
happy
but,
to.
but that's my argument with with the thing is, you know, we select you to do the design, and everything up to it. Once again, the addition to at least to this one, is for training for our staff, so it's not like the design's gone up, the cost of the design's the same. Actually doing the project, the additional cost is actually improving our staff.
I think initially some of the concern too was on some of these with the construction market as volatile as it has been in the recent past, not knowing if it was something that we would be able
Can you hear
to award
Rick?
in this fiscal year.
I couldn't hear Kenny very well, I can hear everybody else.
That's Mike, talking now, yeah.
And,
Oh, okay.
and where they have come in, we decided when we did the initial task orders just to take it up to design. And so knowing that if the bids came in favorably, then we'd move through the bid and the construction phases, and so that's where that came from.
Rich, what we're gonna do here is we're going to back up, Ken's got his hand up, so he has something he wants to say, but I'd like to back up to explain the 11.3, because that was one you specifically asked, and we got the explanation on that, and it makes a lot of sense, I think. So let's see what Ken has, and then I'm gonna ask Mike if he could explain that to you.
Okay, okay.
Thank you, Carl. One of the things I got to do when I was consulting was construction inspection and management. And at Kennedy Jinks, we had lots of forms so that whenever I had a request for information or a reply or a bid request or a change order or whatever document that came through, I already had a form to process it, as well as construction inspection sheets and a process for going through that. And I had engineers, the design engineers to work with whenever I had questions about it. So what I wanted to do was to transition our inspection staff to that level of professionalism to where they could do those things, because I know that they know how to put in pipes and watch over that, but the documentation is not to the level that we could bring this to by working with Bone Collins and Associates. So that was what Mike and I discussed, and our inspectors are pleased and excited to have that. And these are two very good projects for starting that process, because they're not too big, but we're likely to have to process almost all those things. So we get them through this, they'll be comfortable in moving on to larger projects to do the inspection service on.
Okay, thanks, Ken. Would you mind backing up now for?
No problem. Richard, while you were gone, what I explained was specifically on the Pulsifer Wash project, the 11,300 reflects actually two different components. The first component was for 6,300, which was the design of the project. And we had decided to take that up to just the design point. One of the challenges we faced on working in Pulsifer Wash is the Army Corps' jurisdiction there, the requirement of jumping through some hoops for permitting. It ended up not being, it ended up being really pretty innocuous. Once they finally looked at everything and listened to what we were trying to tell them, they got us what we needed. The challenge that presents though is some inefficiencies, and so we ended up using the design budget, the 6,300, to get the bid documents, everything prepared and out to bid. The 11.3 reflects an additional $5,000 that is just like on item number 8, intended to be part of some construction management, but largely for training and helping Kevin and Brian come along to where they can manage the projects of this size themselves. That includes kind of assembling project documents, as-built drawings, and kind of holding their hand as they work through that process. So both items 7 and 8, what we're actually asking for is just $5,000 each. Whether or not that is all used, you know, on the Pulsifer Wash project, they may get in there and bang that out in a week. It'd probably be to their benefit that they did, considering their bid. And that's fine. You know, that means that it's a simple project for us as well. all we're trying to do is make sure that if they do string it out over 3 or 4 weeks, we have enough time to work with Kevin and Brian to come down to progress meetings, ensure the quality of the construction, especially when you have something this low, a bid like this coming in low, as well as a unique situation like a tank where you have some environmental concerns with lead primer and other types of issues. These are two somewhat unique projects, both with the Army Corps' jurisdiction, some of the permitting required on pulse for wash, as well as some of the environmental hazards on the freeway tank, that I think it will give Brian and Kevin both a good flavor of awareness, as well as what jurisdictions hold sway on each of those projects, and give them a good background of a broad spectrum of items they'll need to address in the construction management. Really, the $5,000 on each of those items is just us providing kind of some review, quality control, and training. Does that answer your question, Richard?
Yeah, that explains it.
Typically, when we have bids come in, I mentioned that for design and construction management, we'll see anywhere in the range of 12 to 15% of engineering costs as a percentage of the overall of the bid, which is kind of just a rule of thumb. And where we're asking for 11, we're a little bit over that. We're close to 15%, but where we had a great bid, that does make it look skewed. I agree. It makes us look, we're half the cost of the bid. It just so happens that that bid came in $50,000 lower than the next one, which, you know,
Yeah, but I thought you projected somewhere between 20 and 30,000.
No, the engineer's estimate was at 46 or 47. We were just under 50,000 is where it came in.
Oh, wait.
Okay, I'm ready to make a motion there, Mr. President.
Okay, did you have anything further, Rick? Any other
No, that explains it.
Okay, Mr. Miller is ready to make a motion, so we'll let him go ahead and.
I make a motion that we approve amendment number 2, task order number 11-5 for Bunkerville well number 2 retrofit in the amount of $34,018.
I'll second that.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Okay, we have 5 in favor, none opposed, so that motion passes. We go on to, I think we've run out of money here, Rich.
Yeah.
Yeah, I would get a loan for both Collins.
That's great. I love that. Okay. All right, let me go back to where we are here. We kind of lumped a couple of those together.
Yeah, why can't we just put those 2 together?
We can actually, I mean, we've discussed the next 2, we can go ahead and just, I don't know what else there is to say, we've kicked that dog
Yeah, we
Yeah.
enough now, let's go ahead and just vote on it.
Couple times. Okay.
Okay, you want to make an additional motion?
I'll make a
You
motion.
can lump the other 2 together.
I'll make a motion that we approve the additional $5,000 for the pulse for wash culvert repair to Bowen and Collins and Associates. And I'm gonna lump item number 8 as well, that we give an additional $5,000 to the freeway tank project as well.
I'll second that motion.
Have a motion and a second. Were you able to hear that okay, Rick?
He can't get
I lost it.
Yeah.
Okay, we have a.
I vote aye.
Oh, okay.
Wait.
Is that aye because it's kind of like 2 items?
Aye on both of them.
Okay,
Okay.
all right. Did you have a?
No,
I
it's
second
just-
it.
She's ready to vote.
I'm just ready to vote, we got 2
Okay.
votes on the phone.
All in favor?
Aye,
Okay, we got 4.5.
We got a whole bunch of votes
Or
going.
5.5, okay. So that passes unanimously, 5 in favor, none opposed, so.